What is up, everybody? Welcome back to RacingDudes.com and welcome back to the Kentucky Derby Update Series. That's right. It is that time of year again. The 2026, I almost said 2026 Kentucky Derby is where we'll point to now. Breeders' Cup is over. It's time to get back to Triple Crown chasing here on the site. All right, well, we do this every year, and it's always fun every single year. So kind of look back at what happened, what we ranked last year. So last year, the first Kentucky Derby update came out on November 11th, so just one day after this video here on November 10th. The top five that day, which was the inaugural top five for 2025. Number one was Citizen Bull. Number two, Gaming. Number three, East Avenue. Number four, Sovereignty, the winner of the Kentucky Derby, was ranked in the first poll, my first top five, I should say. And number five, Admiral Dennis. Now to review, Citizen Bull ended up running 15th in the Kentucky Derby, so he did make it. Gaming, he didn't make it. He went 1 for 7 after that video was published. Obviously, that's not good. Did not make the Kentucky Derby. East Avenue, amazingly, did make the Kentucky Derby. He was 8th in the race. Sovereignty, like I said, did win it. And then Admiral Dennis did not make the Derby. He was 2 for 6. I just say, kind of look back and to just kind of show you, look, it's fun to do this kind of stuff. We rank them every single week. We update it every single week. But it's hard at this time of the year to know what's going to happen in, 6 months from now. All right, let's get to it. Let's get to the top five this year. And I'll start off with number 5, Blackout Time. Blackout Time will be number 5 on my list this year, trained by Kenny McPeak. The horse ran second to Ted Noffey in the Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland, and before being a vet scratch at the Breeders' Cup, not be able to run in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Now, Kenny McPeak has kind of talked about, he kind of thinks that's kind of bullshit. What happened there, for lack of a better term. Mystic Dan, also Kenny McPeak trained horse, was scratched out of the race as well. There were a lot of vet scratches at Del Mar for the Breeders' Cup, more than normal. A lot of trainers complaining. I can't really comment because I don't know anything about that. I don't really know the ins and outs of that situation. I wouldn't be too discouraged by the fact that there was a vet scratch there. I think Blackout Time will be just fine. I've got him at number 5. I thought he ran really well when stretching out in distance. I thought he ran really well against Ted Noffey. He just wasn't good enough that day. But, if he can kind of keep developing, who knows? We could see him maybe be, a horse to rise in 2026. Number 4 on the list is Incredible. The horse, obviously, by Bolt d'Oro, trained by Riley Mott. And by the way, I kind of put him at number 4 because his dad's horse, Sovereignty, was number 4 on the list last year. And Riley Mott now with a horse, Incredible, who won the street since last time out at Churchill Downs, a horse that has been pretty darn good in the last couple of races. So just like his dad's horse last year, I'll put Incredible number 4 this year for Riley. Is this horse Sovereignty? Is this horse even comparable at right now versus Sovereignty at that point last year when he won? I'm not sure. Probably not would be the answer. If you remember, Sovereignty was just just one race, which was the Street Sense, and did it pretty impressively as a maiden. So, Incredible has 2 wins versus Sovereignty's 1, but you kind of, even though going into that race, you kind of knew who Sovereignty was, even though he hadn't won yet. So, look, we'll put Incredible at number 4. We'll see if he can kind of progress like that. That would be great if he could, but we'll see what happens with him. The number 3 horse on the list is Mr. AP. This horse ran second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile to Ted Noffey. I thought he ran pretty well. The horse was just a maiden winner, which was his last start before the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He made great strides when he stretched out in distance. I thought the maiden special weight win was really sharp. I did like that effort. I did kind of give him a puncher's chance to maybe run 4th, I would say, in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He outran what I thought he would do, to be quite honest. But look, he's improving. He looks pretty good around 2 turns. I don't know, his overall talent level. I think that's still a big time question mark for sure. But look, as of right now, I think he's earned the way on the list. And we really have a lack of horses, I would say, right now that are really like prime contenders. So, yeah, I've got Mr. AP number 3. We'll see if he can kind of stay on the list, continue to develop. Number 2 is a horse I'm pretty excited about. That's Napoleon Solo. This horse was a really, really good maiden special weight winner, jumped up to the Champagne Stakes for his next start and just dominated the competition there in the Champagne. ran away from it, and looked like a horse that had a big time future, to be quite honest. This horse is trained by Chad Summers. No kind of stranger to winning big races. Of course, he was a trainer of Mind Your Biscuits, who won all over the world and was an incredible horse in his own right. Chad Summers had a pretty good summer / now into the fall there up in New York. He's training very well, and he's got good horses. And so Napoleon Solo is one of them. After that Champagne Stakes, they immediately said, we're not going to the Breeders' Cup. We're going to kind of point to next year. I didn't mind that, really. The horse was lightly raced. You knew you had Ted Noffey sitting out there. Let's just kind of develop him. Let's see how it goes. He won that race by 6.5 lengths. And so it was very eye-catching. He beat a horse named It's Our Time. Now, a couple other horses also beat It's Our Time that day. Didn't fire his best race, but that was a horse that had a ton of hype. And you thought going into it, hey, It's Our Time might win the Champagne by open links. It wasn't him. It was Napoleon Solo. So, again, this was a really, really good win. I was kind of excited to see him match up with Ted Noffey. But again, I get it. I totally understand it that they didn't want to do it. They're kind of pointing to this year. Good on them. I like it. So Napoleon Solo, number 2 for me on this list. And then obviously kept talking about him. So he's going to be number 1, Ted Noffey. He's kind of the de facto number 1 at this point. Look, he's been perfect. He won 2 races up at Saratoga really impressively. He came down to the Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland, and I thought was just super impressive in that race. I thought his Breeders' Cup Juvenile was pretty darn good as well. I think you saw some of the issues that he might have, though. A little immaturity. He kind of ran in spots down the lane. He made that race a lot closer than I think it should have been. But you kind of saw when he kind of got his game face back on, he just skirted away from those horses and looked very, very impressive. Now, I think the immaturity is a thing you could talk about that is more than fair. It makes total sense if you're worried about that. And I get it. I kind of am too. I do think that's something they can kind of get him to stop doing, and he kind of can learn as well as he goes. So who is he beaten? I think is fair to question. I don't think the Hopeful was that great of a race. The Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland, I don't think it was a bad race. I have Blackout Time number 5, but I also don't think there were a lot of heavy hitters in there. I don't particularly think the Breeders' Cup Juvenile was that strong of a race either. Mr. AP, I do have ranked out of that race, but it's more of just because who else are you going to really rank at this point? So I get it. There's some kind of question marks there for sure. And there's also the biggest question mark of all is, only 2 horses have won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and then went on to win the Kentucky Derby. So, and that is Street Sense and Nyquist. And it's not because it's impossible. It's not because obviously it's not impossible. 2 horses have done it. It's not because there's some kind of curse or, oh, it's bad to do it. It's just a simple fact that it is really hard to be the best 2-year-old and then be the best 3-year-old. Even though that's just a 6 or 7 month period there, horses are rapidly developing during that time. Look at Sovereignty. Look at him when he ran in the Street Sense and then go watch when he won the Kentucky Derby or Belmont. The grow up factor is massive on these horses. Even ones that are good right now, they're going to keep getting better. Where some of them might peak. Will Ted Noffey kind of peak? I'm not really sure how that'll work. You never really know. You also have between now and I would say, let's say, November, December, January. Let's give it a 3-month period. You're going to have horses that are kind of later to debut that might be really, really good. So that's kind of the watch right now. And as we update the Kentucky Derby, each week now from now until the Kentucky Derby, we'll have this video, and a lot of it will be kind of geared towards, hey, we're watching for 2-year-olds making debuts and then 3-year-olds into January early in the year making debuts. So look, it isn't some kind of horrible thing to win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. It's just hard to kind of keep that form, but we've seen it done. Nyquist was able to do it very impressively. Street Sense was pretty impressive as well. So it can be done. I don't view it as a negative. I just don't view it as a slam dunk, obviously, that this horse is now going to go win the Kentucky Derby because, winning the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, usually it means you're around for the Derby, but you may not win it. So just keep that in mind with Ted Noffey, who is number 1 on the list. So to review, number 5, Blackout Time. Number 4, Incredible. Number 3, Mr. AP. Number 2, Napoleon Solo. And number 1, Ted Noffey. That's the initial list. It'll be fun to look back next year when we do this in November of 2026 and see if any of those horses made it, won it, or whatever. All right. Quickly, before we get out of here, the big 2 things to watch for, obviously, debuting horses, or maybe horses making their second start that looked okay on debut. How will they kind of be like progress? So keep an eye on that. That's going to be imperative. Keep your eyes locked on Del Mar right now into Santa Anita. Later in the year, obviously, in December. Keep your eyes peeled at Aqueduct. Keep your eyes peeled at Churchill Downs, and look out for Gulfstream. That'll start coming here in a few weeks as well, kind of after the holiday, the Thanksgiving season, I should say. Gulfstream will start to heat up December. Those are kind of your tracks. Oaklawn's getting ready to open up here in December as well. Keep your eye on that. Fairgrounds. Those are the places where you're going to see some debuting horses. When you see maiden special weights with 2-year-olds and then early 3-year-olds, keep an eye on those places. That's going to be where you could see it. Other than keep an eye on, we do have a few Kentucky Derby prep races here in the United States. We have one in Japan on November 29th. I don't know how serious we take that as of right now. Maybe it's a throwout. Maybe we'll see something. Then on November 29th, the Kentucky Jockey Club at Churchill Downs. That's the next one here in the United States. And then the Remsen Stakes on December 6th and the Los Alamitos Futurity on December 13th. We'll go to Japan on December 17th for another prep. Again, we'll kind of take that as it goes. And then the final two preps of 2025 for the 2026 Kentucky Derby, the Gun Runner at Fairgrounds on December 20th. And of course, the race near and dear to my heart, the Remington Park Springboard Mile. That will be December 20th as well. And that'll lead us in to 2026. And of course, I'll get you updated on those races as we get closer to it. All right, guys, that'll do it for the inaugural 2026 Kentucky Derby video, the news and update top 5 video. Of course, we will have all kinds of coverage every single week leading up to the Kentucky Derby. This one just gets us started. All right, guys, thanks everybody for watching this video. Hit that like button if you like it. Subscribe if you really like it. Want to get alerted anytime we do videos like this. And most importantly, stay tuned to the site for more Kentucky Derby news as we start to count down to the 2026 Kentucky Derby.